Thank you all for your testimony. I say this very seriously. It ranked among some of the best testimony that I've had the opportunity to read. I really did enjoy it. In that, I'm going to focus primarily, as much as I love the kinetic side of things, I'm going to focus on the more of the other side of things. And I want to point to you first, Mr. Wolfstall, and some of your comments. I found myself just a little bit confused by them, and I think we can find ourselves at a good place maybe by clarifying them. You made some of these comments. In the last administration, it was very clear that violations of arms control treaties would be confronted and have consequences. But in a different piece, you said, up until now, the U.S. has been reserved in its condemnation of Russia. And then in another place, you said about the Ruskies that they shouldn't be allowed to gain a military advantage. And then went on further to say, to this point, the Russians have been allowed to pretend that they're a responsible nuclear actor, and that very specifically, this is what interests me, we should no longer provide cover for that posture of them pretending to be a responsible actor. So I want to know, diplomatically, what can we learn from the past so that we don't make that same mistake going forward in the next 8 years? What cover was provided to them that we shouldn't do that now going forward? What did they miss? What do we need to learn from that so they don't give us the political middle finger in this?
Sure, Congressman, thank you, and thank you for the thoughtful reading and response. Russia is a nuclear power. They have the largest nuclear arsenal outside of our own, and they have the ability to destroy the United States and any other country that they choose. We recognize that they have that capability, but at the same time, they also have been very active in working with us over many decades to support the cause of nonproliferation. We worked with them very closely for 20 years to enhance nuclear security. They had been active supporters in trying to deal with the challenge of nuclear Iran. But over the last 5 to 10 years, we've seen a lot of that cooperation ebb. And so we still go through the motions in places like the Non-Proliferation Treaty Review Conference, inside the United Nations Security Council, inside the P5 meetings of nuclear states on nonproliferation, and treat them as co-equals. We've chosen not to take that fight that we have and the very serious concerns into those fora because we don't want to do further damage to the nonproliferation system, because that matters to us too. We care about people complying with the NPT and putting pressure on North Korea. My point was simply that we should be very clear and direct in those fora that Russia is not living up to its historic responsibility, that we in the United States are, and that Russia has a lot of work to do if they want to be a legitimate international actor in those areas.
They do have a lot of work to do, unquestionably, but I really want to get to, can you see any specific points of beyond that cover that we've given them? I mean, that was an important word, cover, and beyond that, I would ask you to follow up with, do you see us having to readdress, obviously, there's going to be another nuclear posture review going on, but our nuclear strategy in general. We've gone through the tide of years from mutually assured destruction all the way to selective ambiguity. Do you see a need to readdress what is our nuclear strategy?
A very specific point I would make in my private capacity is I think that we should not engage Russia in the P5 on nonproliferation and nuclear security. I think that we should resolve back down to the P3 with us and the British and the French. The Chinese can be supporters in that. That I think has limited effect, but I think it is something that we can do and that would send a very strong message to Russia diplomatically. In terms of the nuclear posture review, every president has the right and I think should put their stamp on nuclear policy. What are nuclear weapons for? Why do we have them? When would we consider using them? Those are critical decisions that only the President of the United States can answer. We worked very hard to make sure that our policy was supportive in the Obama administration of our global nonproliferation efforts and our global efforts to prevent the use and spread of nuclear weapons. And I think in that we were very effective. The Trump administration has, quite frankly, spoken on multiple sides of the issue. Let there be an arms race on one hand, but it'd be great if we could get rid of all weapons on the other hand. These are issues that I think a fully formed interagency needs to wrestle with and that the President needs to digest and internalize before putting a stamp on them. But I think there is room for adjustments both towards real reductions. I think we have more nuclear weapons than we need, but we may want to have more strategic ambiguity if that's the desire of the President. That's his right as the President.
Very good. Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it.